As school ended, I ran into some thugs. My childhood friend instinctively shielded the poor student. In the midst of confusion, a barrage of comments suddenly flashed in front of me. Ethan is indeed reborn. He's finally made up for the regret of not saving Lena in his past life. Lol. The female antagonist next to them is about to lose her mind. But with her scheming ways, she's definitely going to complain when she gets home and get her elders to pressure Ethan. Her tactics are so predictable. But the male lead is reborn. What's going to happen Eden if he's no longer with the Vivian family? With the barrage flooding my mind, I unconsciously whispered, Ethan. However, all of his attention was on Lena, who was clinging to the hem of his shirt like a delicate flower, evoking deep sympathy. Don't be scared. I'm here. Ethan's voice was low, husky, and gentle. Haha. I'm falling for this. Ethan's gaze towards Lena is so affectionate. It's all Vivian's fault in the last life dragging him to the dessert shop, causing him to miss this moment. This indirectly led to Lena's depression and eventual suicide years later. The female lead really has it rough. This time, the male lead must get rid of the female antagonist's entanglement and save the poor Lena. The barrage clouded my thoughts. Hey! I'm talking to you. One of the thugs, annoyed by my silence, reached out his hand. I froze for a moment. Years of martial arts experience kicked in, and my body moved instinctively, tossing him out with ease. Seeing this, the two other thugs surrounding Ethan and Lena rushed forward. The scene immediately descended into chaos. Ethan tightly protected Lena behind him, his voice tinged with a hint of desperation. Ethan, don't worry about me. Go help her. Ethan glanced at me, his eyes cold and indifferent. She's trained in combat. Unlike you, I'll escort you out first. With that, he threw his arm around Lena's shoulders, almost forcing her to leave with him. By the time the bodyguards arrived and took control of the situation, those two figures were almost out of sight. I stood there, catching my breath. A bright red round on my arm stung painfully. Inside the room, the family doctor had already left. A faint smell of disinfectant still lingered in the air. I lifted my arm and looked at the bandage wrapped neatly around my wrist. The scene on the way home kept replaying in my mind uncontrollably. Ethan's decisive, swift turn as he shielded Lena. Determined. Quick. Like a reflex. Almost instinctive. Then, Lena. I thought of the way he looked at me, full of indifference and disgust, stranger-like, sending a chill through my body. In that moment, it suddenly hit me. Perhaps I was the female antagonist they mentioned in the barrage. The one who loved him but couldn't have him. Ethan and I had known each other since we were children and grew up together. But our starting points had never been the same. The Ethan family had many children, with fierce competition. Ethan, since he was young, had mediocre talent apart from his handsome appearance. He was nearly invisible among his peers. Meanwhile, I was the only daughter of the Vivian family, the cherished jewel of the corporation, and the sole heir to the Vivian Empire. Through our childhood bond, Ethan's family, which had nearly gone bankrupt multiple times, not only paid off their debts but regained their footing in the business world. Ethan, once the neglected child of the family, gradually rose to the center of power within the Ethan family. Over the years, I had used the Vivian family's business resources, helping him climb up step by step, and he had always remained calm, never refusing my help. I thought this was exactly what he wanted. Only today did I learn from the barrage. For all these years, he had resented me for binding him with the Vivian family's power. In his past life, under the pressure from his family, he married me, enduring humiliation. Lena, his first love, tragically passed away before he could fully take control of his family's power, making her his lost love. So in this life, he decided to save and redeem that poor, fragile girl Lena. Suddenly, my phone rang. A screen lit up, and the name Ethan appeared. As soon as I answered, his angry voice came to the receiver. Vivian, are you going to my parents again? Pretending to be pitiful? Is this some sort of game to you? The silence was immediately shattered as more text bubbles appeared in the air. The malicious female antagonist went and complained, causing Ethan to get scolded by his dad. Vivian knows all this self-defense. But Lena is so weak. Of course. The male lead has to protect her. Why is she causing such a scene? Isn't it just because the Vivian family has more money than the Ethan family? In the last life, she used this advantage to control him, and then forced the engagement. That's why, after Lena died, Ethan hated them all. He took over the Vivian family's assets and revealed the truth in front of everyone, causing Vivian's father to have a stroke totally deserved. I clenched the phone, my fingers trembling slightly. What's the matter? Hit a nerve? Ethan's mocking laugh almost dropped from the receiver. After all these years, this is the best you've got. Ethan. I took a deep breath, cutting him off. Vivian, am not so petty as to cry to the elders to resolve things. My tone was surprisingly calm. Besides, the Ethan family has so many people watching you, keeping an eye on every move we make. After all these years, how many projects have the Ethan family secured thanks to the Vivian family? How much profit have you gained from it? Do you need me to remind you? The other side suddenly went quiet. Ethan seemed taken aback that I brought it up. After a long silence, his deep voice finally spoke. Vivian, I didn't realize you're so petty. The two families are just business partners. Why do you have to tie gratitude to revenge? I interrupted him with a cold laugh. Partnership? Ask yourself. When was it ever us, the Vivian family, who were always at a disadvantage? Always taking the hit? Do you think there's such a thing as an unequal partnership? Enough? Ethan's voice suddenly shot up, as if stung. Yes. The Vivian family helped the Ethan family. But do you think I wanted that? You've humiliated me for years, using our engagement to restrict my freedom. Vivian, Lundell, I've had enough. His voice was filled with contempt. The barrage of comments instantly flooded the screen with praise. The male lead is cutting ties with the female antagonist so quickly. It's as if being reborn didn't weigh him down at all. But this female antagonist is so calculating, always bringing up family matters, trying to morally blackmail him. Clearly, she only did it because she liked the male lead and was willing to sacrifice everything for him. Moreover, the Ethan family is no longer what it used to be. Once Ethan takes full control, he'll probably surpass the Vivian family in no time. Vivian definitely won't let go easily. After all, she's still deeply in love with the male lead. She might do something drastic. What's to worry about? Ethan will definitely protect the female lead this time. Before I could even respond, Ethan hung up, and the barrage of comments vanished just as suddenly. The next morning, Ethan intercepted Lena with a bottle of warm milk in hand. In full view of everyone, he placed the milk into her hands. Here. Ethan's voice was soft, but clear enough for the students around them to hear. Skipping breakfast isn't good for your stomach. Lena's cheeks flushed slightly, and she instinctively took a step back. Ethan, thank you for saving me yesterday. But this is not appropriate. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Ethan interrupted her, raising his voice intentionally. Don't worry. From now on, no one will dare to bully you as long as I'm around. As I rounded the corner, every pair of eyes turned toward me. Surprise. Mockery. Sarcasm. Whoa. What's going on between Ethan and Lena? You're just noticing? I've already sensed Ethan's special treatment of her. What about Vivian? Isn't she? Sure. She's the young lady from the Vivian family. The whispers around me were like 1,000 tiny needles. I cast a cold glance at the central figures, Ethan and Lena, and decided to take a detour. But Lena quickly jogged to catch up. She shoved the milk into my hands, her eyes red. Vivian, I know you like Ethan, but I didn't know about what happened today. I hope you won't be mad. It was as expected. Whenever the main couple was involved, the barrage of comments followed. Don't give in to her. Vivian, the male-led's favoritism is so obvious. Be brave. What can she do? Vivian has power and status. She can't afford to provoke her. Vivian always acts so arrogant. No wonder Ethan dislikes her. Not just dislikes. If it weren't for her meddling in the past, using her family's power to force Ethan into marriage. He wouldn't have hated her so much. After taking the throne, he destroyed her family. I pointed to Ethan behind her and said coolly, Lena, if you want to reject him, you should speak to him directly. What's the point of dragging me into this? Lena bit her lower lip tightly. Vivian, I know my family's circumstances aren't great. So you've always looked down on me. But I really just want to help. Afan called her behind him. His expression vigilant. Vivian, why can't you just leave us alone? Take the milk as my gift to you. Don't cause trouble for Lena. His gaze was filled with disgust. I lowered my eyes inferently and tossed the milk into the trash can around the corner. You're overthinking it. I don't need your cheap leftovers. A reference to both the object and the person. Ethan's sharp expression flickered with brief astonishment, but his face quickly darkened. Vivian, I never realized you could be so venomous. Come back here and apologize. Having known each other for years, I couldn't tell when he started to speak to me with such an authoritarian tone. I ignored him and turned to walk toward the classroom. That evening, my father, ever perceptive, noticed the shift in my attitude toward Ethan. He called me to his study. Ethan's family recently sent someone again, hoping I'll invest in the North City Tech Park. I haven't given them an answer yet. Vivian, what do you think? I knew he'd always looked down on Ethan's family's business style. The Ethan family, from top to bottom, were driven solely by profit, always playing the game of power and hierarchy to the extreme. In this respect, Ethan, who was normally indifferent and self-righteous, was quite the anomaly. In the past, I liked Ethan, and the two families had an agreement. So my father, out of love for his only daughter, supported Ethan's family as if backing a future son-in-law. But now, with Ethan and I at odds, there was no need to maintain ties between the two families. Dad, from now on, we don't need to do anything that's not in the best interest of the Vivian family. I looked at his slightly aged face, suddenly feeling guilty for being blind and ignorant in the past. I pushed Ethan's family's project proposal into the trash, as though brushing away a speck of dust. In the past, Ethan's family benefited from the Vivian family's resources. But now I've come to terms with it. It ends here. Hearing this, my father smiled with satisfaction and said earnestly, Vivian, remember, the group will eventually be handed over to you. So every decision you make directly impacts your future as the CEO of the Vivian family. Moreover, such lifelong matters must be approached with the utmost caution. I gently took his hand, suddenly thinking of the comments in the barrage about my past life. No matter what, this time, I will protect Vivian's legacy and my father's hard work. Reborn. Ethan no longer hides his affection for Lena. He stands up for her, punishing every bully who's ever tormented her. His protection of her displayed for all to see. The number of comments on the barrage grows daily, almost obscuring my view. During rehearsal for the arts festival, I accidentally ran into them on a date outside the music room. Through a crack in the door, I saw Ethan standing behind Lena, patiently holding her wrist. Here, look at the sheet music. Yes, head in hostel session. Like this. His voice carried a tenderness and patience I hadn't heard in a long time. Lena blushed slightly, obediently following his instructions. The sunset filtered through the window, casting a warm, beautiful glow over them, like a scene from a drama with an idle couple. The barrage flooded in, Ethan teaching piano hand in hand. It's so sweet, huh? How do these little lovebirds know how to tease so blatantly? My heart just got warmed up for a moment. The female lead's already in love, but she's too shy to express it. Given her family background, it's only when Ethan's with Lena that he's this at ease. No wonder he hated the female antagonist so much in his past life. Ironically, I suddenly remembered something from when I was 7. That day, I dragged Ethan under the scorching sun to confront his parents. How can you make him stand for punishment in this heat? He'll get heatstroke. Ethan, if they do this again, come to my house. Ethan's parents couldn't hide their surprise, repeatedly saying it was a misunderstanding. At that time, he just looked down, quietly standing by my side. watching me argue for him. For years, the same scene had played out over and over. He would always stay quiet, enduring the bullying from his older brother and the neglect from his parents. Meanwhile, I spared no effort using the Vivian family's resources and connections to pave a path for him, helping him secure a foothold in his family, even reversing the decline of Ethan's family. I thought, at the very least, he would be grateful for my efforts. It wasn't until I saw the barrage of comments that I finally understood. In his past life, Ethan resented me for many years. Not only for causing him to miss out on his true love but also for using my family's power to bind him. As my thoughts gathered, I quietly turned away, leaving all the voices and comments behind. Before long, Ethan's mother approached Lena. In a CAF near the school, my friends and I sat in the corner. And by chance, we witnessed this scene. Lena nervously stirred her latte in front of her, while Ethan's mother, impeccably made up, finally spoke after a long pause. Lena, I hear your family is going through some difficulties. Getting into this university must not have been easy for you, right? Lena hesitated, then stammered. Thank you for your concern. Auntie. I still. Young people, especially girls, need to know how to respect themselves. Ethan's mother interrupted impatiently. Stop thinking about taking shortcuts or attaching yourself to things that don't belong to you. Lena's face turned pale. Ethan's mother sneered and continued. Our Ethan is young, easily moved by some cheap, ill-intentioned things. But you must understand. The future daughter-in-law of the Ethan family is not someone just any random person can have the privilege to be. The barrage exploded instantly. Oh my God. Ethan's mom is that snobbish? Don't listen to her. Female-led. How does she know all this? Could it be Vivian who told her? Definitely Vivian. Don't forget. She's so good at winning over Ethan's parents. Now she's probably trying to use the elders to break up the leads. In the last life, the male-led only lived a life he hated because he obeyed their wishes. Tears welled up in Lena's eyes. But she still spoke with stubborn resolve. Auntie. No matter how much you insult me, my stance will not change. I will not leave Ethan. With that, she gripped her canvas bag and stood up, walking away with determination. When these words reached Ethan's ears, he caused a scene that night, resolutely declaring that he would marry no one but Lena. But he seemed to have forgotten one thing. The reason he had any influence in the Ethan family over the years was not due to his outstanding abilities, but because everyone in the Ethan family knew that he, Ethan, was my fiancé. Standing behind him was the entire power and resources of the Vivian family. Now that he had lost this halo, he no longer had the qualifications to make demands in the Ethan family. In his fury, Ethan's father smashed several antiques and cursed him as a fool who couldn't tell what was good for him. To force Ethan to bow down to me. The Ethan family took him to the Vivian family overnight. In the dark, rainy night, Ethan, escorted by his two older brothers, knelt outside my house. Kneel properly. You good for nothing. You won't rise until you earn Vivian's forgiveness. Ethan's father's roar, twisted and desperate, pierced through the sound of the rain. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor, witnessing the drama unfold. The butler entered to report, and I simply waved my hand. Tell them outside. The Vivian family does not. Before I could finish, Ethan's defiant voice rang out from below. I'm not going. I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? The Vivian family only has some filthy money. Does the Ethan family have to bow down to them? Dad. We don't need the Vivian family. I'll prove it with my own effort. Unfilial son. Shut up. Ethan's father, in a fit of rage, struck him across the face. Through the crack in the window, I saw Ethan's face turn to the side, spitting out a mouthful of blood. For all these years, I had never seen Ethan's father this enraged. Ethan lowered his eyes, a mocking smirk pulling at his lips. Then, went on a low sigh, as though all his reservations had been wiped away. He raised his head and shouted, Dad, no matter how you force me, I won't compromise this time. I love Lena, and I'll never marry anyone but her. If I have to marry Vivian for some so-called benefit, Then I'd rather never be part of the Ethan family again. Ethan's tone was proud and firm. The barrage of comments flooded the screen in a frenzy. Ethan's already standing up to his family for Lena. Vivian upstairs must be furious hearing this. I have a feeling she might reveal herself. Seriously. Does no one feel bad for the male lead? Growing up in such a toxic family. No wonder he calls Lena the only bright thing in his world. So what if Ethan cuts ties with the Ethan family? Pretentious family members are better off gone. At least he still has Lena. Plus, Ethan is Ethan's father's most favored son. In the past life, he inherited the Ethan family. So there's no way he's really going to cut ties. Ethan's two older brothers stepped aside in disbelief, possibly questioning if he had lost his mind. You let out a lull sigh. Ethan's father, clutching his chest, slowly turned pale. His trembling finger pointed at Ethan. And before he could catch his breath, he collapsed face first into the water, passing out. Ethan's father suffered a stroke from the stress of the outburst. Thankfully, heading fully, he was rescued in time and survived. But he required long-term rest. That night's incident quickly became the talk of the town. Everyone in the city of Hai knew that Ethan had been reckless, defying his parents and brothers, nearly causing his father's death. Ethan's father, deeply disappointed, held a simple family meeting by his bedside and expelled Ethan from the family, cutting off all financial support and reclaiming all his assets. Because of this, Lena intercepted me at the school building. Vivian, mundane, I know your family has power and influence. But you can't use it to manipulate Ethan's feelings. She stood firmly in front of me. I gave her a brief glance. This usually meek, poor student now stood before me like a little kitten with its fur standing on end. Move aside. I glanced over her trembling lashes. My tone indifferent. No. She suddenly raised her voice, drawing the attention of students in the hallway. You know that Ethan loves me. And yet, you're using this despicable method to force him, making him be expelled by the Ethan family. You have an obligation to explain this to the Ethan family and make them accept him again. I took a step forward. He was expelled because of you. He defied his parents because of you. So how is this my fault? Lena froze for a moment. A tall figure suddenly appeared. Ethan firmly gripped Lena's hand, shielding her behind him. I don't regret my choice. It had been a long time since I'd seen him. He seemed like someone reborn, once wrapped in luxury brands. His tall figure now wore only the plainest hoodie. But his back remained straight. Vivian, I have severed all ties with the Ethan family. The engagement is null and void, and I am no longer bound by you. I've already given my heart to someone else. And I hope you can move on soon. His voice carried an unmistakable tone of finality and relief. Lena leaned against his side, looking up at him with eyes full of gratitude. Even if the two little ones lose the whole world, at least they still have each other. Vivian will never experience this pure love in this life. She deserves it. Honestly. In the previous life, Ethan was constrained by family interests and morally manipulated by Vivian. And that's why he lost his true love. The barrage went wild, celebrating this brave love. I tugged at the corner of my mouth slightly. A strange, almost pitying calm settling deep within me. There's nothing to move on from, I said, my gaze sliding over their tightly clasped hands. I wish you both what you desire. No anger. No resentment. Not even a hint of lingering attachment. Ethan's pupils flickered ever so slightly. A hint of surprise crossing his features. I hope Vivian keeps her word. Lena squeezed Ethan's hand tightly, her voice signaling possession. I didn't linger. Turning away, I left. At this point, I had already removed myself from the story. I just didn't know how far their so-called pure love would carry them when the road ahead was strewn with real thorns. At a banquet, Ethan's father took the initiative to approach my father and me. He bowed slightly, his tone obsequious. Vivian, I take full responsibility for raising such a son. I will make sure he faces the consequences this time. And once he truly repents, we'll. My father narrowed his eyes, cutting him off abruptly. Ethan, I have a. This is your family matter. No need to report to me. Ethan's father froze for a moment, clearly caught off guard by the sharp rejection. Seeing my father remain unfazed, he quickly turned his attention to me. Vivian. You grew up with Ethan. You know him best. He's just young and impetuous. Lacking experience. Don't worry. As long as I'm around, the engagement between our families remains intact. His tone was firm, almost as if he were trying to act as my protector. But I knew all too well. He simply wasn't willing to give up the power of the Vivian family. For more than 10 years, he had secretly used Ethan to benefit his own family. I smiled faintly. Ethan's father. What engagement are you talking about? When we were children, we didn't know any better, it was just a joke. Ethan's father paused, stunned into silence. Seizing the opportunity while he was lost in thought, I excused myself and walked away with my father. At first, Ethan's father likely just wanted to show loyalty to the Vivian family while softening Ethan's attitude. But after that night's banquet, even he should have realized where the Vivian family stood. Not long after, Ethan began to realize that this time, his father was serious. In order to maintain his living standards, he sold off the remaining luxury goods he had. The once constant entourage of sycophants slowly distanced themselves from the fallen young master. Even so, Ethan never regretted choosing Lena. Just as the barrage had said. In this life, he chose the true love he had always longed for. Yet, without the halo of the Ethan family's young master, those former bullies no longer hesitated. One day, after school, they cornered Ethan and Lena. Hey! Why are you protecting her so much? The leader, a boy with yellow hair, taunted Ethan. I heard you gave up your identity as the Ethan family's young master for her. Another thug sneered. If it were me, I wouldn't do something so stupid. A fickle woman like her isn't worth giving up a lifetime of glory and wealth. Lena's face turned pale, clutching her wrist. She took a few steps back and whispered. Asan, Ethan. I don't know what they're talking about. She shook her head, still looking as if she were about to cry. Ethan's expression darkened, and he shouted at the thugs. If you keep running your mouths, I won't hold back. I'm not talking nonsense. The boy with yellow hair raised his voice. I caused trouble for her before because she kept stringing my brothers along. She accepted their Valentine's gifts but refused to date them. We went to get the bracelet back from her, but then we bumped into a fighter. We later realized she's the young lady of the Vivian family. Tell me, how could you lead the Vivian family's heiress and choose a girl like Lena? You're asking for death. Ethan's face darkened further. Before the boy could finish, Ethan clenched his fist and charged into the crowd. The thugs immediately swarmed him. In the chaos, Lena silently took a few steps back, then quietly disappeared without a trace. Ethan remained unaware of it all, still engaged in the fight. Yellow Hair was the first to react. Panicked, he rushed toward the alley. Ethan saw a figure moving rapidly toward him and instinctively shoved hard. The next moment, Yellow Hair fell backwards, his head hitting the wall. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The world seemed to freeze for a moment. After a long pause, one of the thugs crouched down, checking for a pulse, then trembled as he whispered. He's dead. When the police arrived, only a few students remained at the school gates. I had stayed late in the office asking questions, so I was a little behind schedule. As I left the school, I happened to see Ethan being led into a police car. In the crowd, Ethan caught sight of me from afar. His expression was numb, but there was a brief moment of distraction in his eyes. But soon, my vision was overtaken by the barrage of comments. Lena's so pretty and kind-hearted. She doesn't know how to refuse. That's why she attracts all the wrong people. If Ethan really ends up in prison, the Ethan family will wash their hands of him. What happens next? Will the story even continue? They're the main couple. These are just bumps along the road of love. The more dramatic it gets, the more unforgettable it becomes. But Ethan was just fighting for Lena. Where has she gone now? Wait. We haven't seen Lena since just now. Where is she? I stood still, quietly watching as Ethan was taken away. When the police car drove off, the empty comments on the screen finally disappeared. Due to involuntary manslaughter, Ethan was sentenced to prison. The Ethan family, embarrassed, refused to even acknowledge him and publicly claimed they had no such son. Lena, having lost all protection, was torn apart by public opinion and suffered at school. The barrage continued to defend her without discernment, madly praising the main couple's selfless love, mocking me for losing Ethan's heart forever. 2 months later, Lena could no longer bear the strange looks from her classmates and chose to drop out, returning to the countryside with her grandmother. None of this caused a stir in my life. With the main couple gone, the barrage naturally faded away. On graduation day, I took the stage as an outstanding graduate to receive my award. After the ceremony, my father took my certificate and asked, "Did you book the tickets to Iceland?" I nodded and shook the camera in my hand. "I'm going to photograph the northern lights." Then the principal walked over and exchanged a few pleasantries with my father. I stood among the crowd, watching birds dart across the clear sky, leaving no trace behind. It was as if the right and wrong of the past, like memories, had all become mere pages quickly turned in the story of life. And my world, it always moved forward. After funding my stepdaughter to her PhD, her interview made me famous for all the wrong reasons. In the video her eyes brimmed with tears. "The pain of a blended family, I will need a lifetime to make peace with myself." She was hailed as the independent woman of a new era. I was nailed to the pillory as the wicked stepmother. My son went to demand an explanation from her, only to be shoved down the stairs by her followers and left a vegetable. I crawled on my knees begging her to use her medical contacts to save him. And she said, "This is the price you pay for intruding into another family. You got what you deserved." Someone recognized me. Panicked, I ran and was struck by a passing truck. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day we were supposed to pick the stepdaughter up. This time, I would make her understand what the pain of a blended family truly means. "Wife. That's Mara." Following Elliot's finger, I saw the mother and daughter. Mara wore a faded t-shirt and picked at her nails with her head bowed. Beside her stood her biological mother, Valentina, wearing a face of impatience. I clenched my fist without thinking. That seemingly innocent face, tearful eyes accusing me of ruining her life. She had said, "The pain of a blended family, I will need a lifetime to make peace with myself." After her success she was adored by thousands. I, meanwhile, was cyber-mobbed, afraid even to step outside. My son tried to fight for me and was shoved down the stairs brain dead, never to wake. My last memory before I died was Mara looking down at me and saying coldly, "Eloan, this is the price you pay for intruding into another family. You got what you deserved." A price? I poured out my heart for her and raised her as if she were my own. Her pocket money was always twice what I gave my biological son. When she wanted a new phone, I bought the latest model without blinking. I slaved over a table full of home-cooked dishes, and the moment she said she wanted takeout, I smiled and ordered it for her. My son cried from the injustice and I told him, "You're the older brother, be kind to your sister." When Elliot died of cancer, it was me gritting my teeth alone who supported her through her doctorate. And what did I get in return? A single sentence, "You got what you deserved." My son lying in a hospital bed, never to call me mom again. My heart felt as if an invisible hand had clamped around it, squeezing until I could hardly breathe. "Wife? Are you all right? You look pale." Elliot asked, worried, studying me. I shrugged his hand off and forced a smile far uglier than a sob. "I'm fine." Elliot didn't press. He always was gentle and a little slow. He couldn't see the venom in Valentina's eyes, more the calculation beneath her daughter's downcast gaze. He thought that if we were good enough, we could warm her heart. What a laughably naive belief. "She's brought her," Valentina announced, striding up to us. She shoved a half-worn suitcase onto the ground. "Don't bother me again after today." Mara seemed to sense my stare and finally raised her head. Our eyes met. Those eyes so like Valentina's carried a hint of appraisal and challenge. Elliot was still waving her over. "Mara, come call Eloan mom." Mara didn't move. Valentina snorted. Everyone expected me to break the ice, to make the first conciliatory move like last time. But I refused. I looked at Mara and flatly, without expressions, pat one word. "Let's go." Not to her, but to Elliot. Then I turned and strode to our car. Behind me, Elliot's stunned face, Valentina's surprise, and Mara's suddenly complicated expression. My coldness clearly threw Elliot off guard. He chased after me and grabbed my wrist. Bewildered. Wife. Valentina recovered first, folding her arms and clicking her high heels as she approached, chin lifted like an arrogant peacock. Elliot. That's your daughter. Don't let someone else's seed make you mistreat your own child. I won't give a single cent for living expenses if you're so capable. Starve her. I looked past her at Mara a short distance away. Her hair was dull and yellowed. The faded t-shirt hung loosely over a thin frame. Then I glanced at Valentina, impeccable makeup. The latest Fendi bag slung on her shoulder. Nails adorned with sparkling rhinestones. Last life. That stark contrast cut me to the bone. I had turned my contempt for Valentina into pity for Mara. I comforted her. Urged her not to hate her mother. To look ahead. What did I get for that? She took my kindness as weakness and my provisions as atonement. Fine. If you think I owe you, then I'll show you what a real stepmother can be. That won't do. I shrugged Elliot's hand off and faced Valentina directly. Either you pay monthly support, or you take her away now. Our family isn't short of children. Elliot froze. Valentina looked as if she'd heard nonsense. You what? I sneered. Mara is in your custody. Elliot only has visitation rights. Legally we have no obligation to raise her. Today we're taking her out of kindness. Not duty. I spoke fast and hard. Elliot opened his mouth. Then chose to stand with me. Eloan's right. Mara is your daughter, you can't shirk responsibility. That steadiness is why I married him in the first place. Valentina, confronted with our resolve, seemed to deflate. She hadn't expected me to act so uncharacteristically. Her eyes darted, clearly scheming. All right. I'll give it. She sounded as if she'd made a huge concession. Words aren't enough. I pulled out my phone and opened my payment code. Transfer a year's food allowance in advance. 1,000 and a month, 12,000 total. 12,000? Why don't you just rob a bank? Valentina screamed. I remained expressionless. Too much? Then take her now and we'll leave immediately. I made a move to pull Elliot toward the car. Wait. Valentina hissed, digging out her phone. My phone chimed almost instantly. I glanced down. A transfer, 1,000 yuan. The next moment, Valentina unexpectedly lowered her voice and said, There's only this much money. If your child has the ability, just throw it away. After saying that, she turned and ran off without even looking at Mara. Valentina. Elliot shouted angrily, wanting to chase after her. But I stopped him. He turned back to look at me, flustered and furious. How can she do this? I ignored him and simply watched Mara, who stood silently in place, saying nothing. Her head was lowered, and I couldn't see her expression. But I didn't need to guess. It was obvious she was blaming everything on me. I slowly put away my phone, turning off the recording screen that was still running. Then I walked up to Mara, giving her a smile that could be described as gentle. Let's go, Mara. We're going home. Though this home might not be the one you want. We didn't speak a word on the way home. Once home, I asked Elliot to prepare the bedroom, and I went to cook. Dinner was served, 3 dishes and a soup, all made by me. Sweet and sour ribs, stir-fried prawns, shiitake mushrooms with bok choy, and egg drop soup. All dishes favored by teenagers. Elliot served me a bowl of rice and was about to call Mara, but she came out of her room. She glanced at the dishes on the table, swallowed, but forced her brows together, and her lips curled into a disdainful expression. I'm not eating this. I want some takeout. The scene, the words, were exactly the same as in my past life. Back then, I had been at a loss. Clumsily explaining how much effort I put into preparing the meal, Elliot exploded on the spot, scolding her for being unreasonable, which led to a huge argument between father and daughter. Mara cried and locked herself in her room, refusing to eat for 3 days. And I, of course, became the one blamed for starting the family war. Mara. Elliot's brow twitched as he slammed his chopsticks onto the table. I raised my hand, holding down his arm that was about to rise. Under the surprised gazes of father and daughter, I picked up a piece of vegetables and slowly put it in my mouth, chewing it carefully. Then, Madame Awosai. I looked up at Mara. Order it yourself if you want. The air instantly grew silent. Elliot looked at me as though he had seen a ghost. Usually, you do, when my son snacks before dinner. I scold him to death, let alone mention ordering takeout to provoke things. Mara's expression of defiance also froze. She probably prepared a whole speech to argue with us, but it ended up falling flat. She froze for a few seconds, and then a hint of contempt flashed in her eyes. Oh, she understood. This stepmother was trying to please her. To show weakness. After all, her mom said that she gave Dad a large sum of money. So no matter how unwilling, this woman had to cater to her. Look. Isn't she softening up now? That small bit of pride in Mara's heart was revived. She snorted, turned, and went back to her room, slamming the door with a bang. Even through the door, I could hear her smugly talking to her phone. 1 serving of spicy crayfish. Extra spicy. And add a portion of cheesy baked rice. Lon. You. Elliot, trying to control his temper, looked at me with confusion. How can you spoil her like this? If we don't set rules from the start, how will it be in the future? Rules? I picked up a rib and smiled. If you try to set rules with her, she'll just think the stepmother is tormenting her. Do you believe me? In a little while, she'll call Valentina and complain that we are abusing her and not even giving her food. That's exactly what Mara did in my past life. And Valentina, on the phone, added fuel to the fire, teaching her daughter how to deal with me, the wicked stepmother, and create chaos at home. Elliot's face dark, and as he must have realized how Valentina was. Then we can't just let her get away with it. Let her get away with it? No, no. No. I put down my chopsticks, leaned closer to him, and whispered. Do you think Valentina will give her much money? Elliot froze. I continued. She's still young. She thinks her mom is just busy and can't look after her, and that she gave us a lot of money so she can have a good life. She doesn't know her mom just wants to get rid of her. That 1,000 you want today is probably the extent of Valentina's motherly love. Let her order. I want to see how long that money will last for takeout. I gently patted Elliot's hand to comfort him. Don't rush. We won't scold her or stop her. Let her spend the money. When she runs out of money and is hungry, she'll realize who's truly good to her. Then, let out a low sigh. She'll realize how unreliable her real mom is, the one who saw her as a burden, hindering her pursuit of a rich man. After dinner, I took Elliot for an examination to catch the cancer early. In my past life, by the time we discovered it, Elliot was already in the late stages, with cancer cells spread throughout his abdominal cavity. The doctor said he only had 6 months at most. That 6 months were the darkest time of my life. Having been reborn, I didn't want to lose him again. Without the pocket money I gave her in the past life, she indeed couldn't hold out for long. That Saturday, I was downstairs in the sauna room, applying a face mask. Suddenly, heading for Sobmeier, I heard muffled voices coming from Mara's room next door. I froze in the middle of tearing off my face mask. Mom, I've run out of money. I didn't waste it. I only ordered takeout twice. Bought a few clothes. I know you're busy, but I really have no money left. My classmate invited me to the movies this weekend. I can't just not go. On the other end of the line, Valentina must have said something. Mara's voice suddenly rose, then quickly lowered, as if afraid I would hear. What? Ask her for it? You mean. You gave them a large sum of money? Oh, okay. I understand. She hung up the phone, and the room fell silent. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, slowly taking off my face mask. As expected, all the good people in the world had been made out to be by Valentina. In her daughter's mind, she would always be the perfect mom, one who thought of her and provided her with a rich life, only unable to be with her due to work, while I was the evil stepmother, taking her mother's money but treating her cruelly and not giving her any pocket money. Since she liked playing the role of the good person so much, I would personally tear that mask apart for her. In the evening, Elliot returned. And our son also came back from his tutoring class. The family was about to eat dinner. Mara came out of her room. She changed into a new outfit, her face painted with makeup to mature for her age, and walked up to me with her chin lifted like an arrogant peacock. "Hello and Mom." She deliberately stretched the tone of my name. "My mom said my pocket money is with you. You should give it to me now." Elliot, just lifting his bowl, furrowed his brows at the mention of this. Our son Lucas looked up curiously, glancing between her and me. I ignored them, even picking up a piece of my favorite tomato beef brisket, cooked perfectly. Chewing slowly, I unlocked my phone, opened a chat window, and turned the screen toward her. On the screen were the WeChat messages between me and Valentina. At the top was a transfer she sent yesterday. The orange box with the white Arabic numerals was glaring. 1,000 points RO has been received. Your mom only gave me 1,000 yuan. I spoke softly, but my voice clearly carried through the dining room. This money, according to your mom, is for your living expenses, tuition, having fulfilled wide session, and all your pocket money for this semester. I paused and looked directly at her. Your dad has already paid for your new semester's fees, 2,000 yuan. Exactly. Your mom and dad each contributed 1,000. Mara's eyes wide and as if confirming. I took the phone back, watching her calmly. So, there's no extra money for you. The smugness and arrogance on her face shattered, piece by piece. She stared at me, her eyes full of disbelief. It's impossible. My mom wouldn't only give this little. You've swallowed my money. Her voice was shrill, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. This is my house. My dad's house. My real dad's house. She screamed desperately, as if clutching at her last lifeline. Yes. I nodded, my smile unchanged, even carrying a hint of gentleness. This is your dad's house. So you live here, eat here, and both your dad and I haven't asked your mom for a single extra penny because raising you is our responsibility. My gaze swept over her brand new dress. But anything beyond that responsibility requires extra payment. You don't respect me. So I won't give you pocket money. She pointed at Lucas, who was happily eating, wanting to say something. I immediately added, and my son, Lucas, all his living expenses, tuition, and pocket money are paid entirely by me. Not your dad, understand? The air seemed to freeze. Mara opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. The color drained from her face, and that new dress of hers suddenly felt like a cruel joke. The huge allowance she had boasted of, the support from her biological mother that had been her shield and justification for her arrogance, turned out to be a laughable lie. She resembled a defeated rooster, her earlier pride completely gone. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, without a word, she turned and walked back to her room, lost and defeated. This time, no door slammed. It was only gently closed, making a barely audible click sound. I knew she still hated me inside, blaming me for destroying her biological family. So I had to find a chance to make her understand the whole truth, or else the events of my past life would repeat themselves. But the butterfly effect of my rebirth happened first. That day, my son returned home, fuming. He tossed his school bag onto the sofa, his face flushed red with anger. "Mom," Lucas said, his eyes full of grievance and rage. "Mara's been telling everyone at school that you're the homewrecker." My hands, which had been folding clothes, froze. The seed of hatred had finally sprouted. I said nothing, just walked over, patted his head, and poured him a glass of water. People have mouths, and we can't control what they say. But as long as we know the truth, that's enough. That evening, when Elliot came home, he immediately sensed the tension in the air. He put down his briefcase, looking first at his sullen son, then at me. I told him everything. His face darkened instantly, and a chilling aura surrounded him. She's gone too far. He suppressed his anger and turned to rush toward Mara's room. I grabbed his arm. Don't go. Going to yell at her now will only make her think you're angry and confirm the accusations against me. My voice was calm, eerily so. Like a stagnant pool of water. Elliot's strength seemed to drain from him in an instant. And he slumped onto the sofa. His hands running through his hair. Mentioning Valentina made his head ache. No one suffered more than him. Because he was the one who tore open the wound of their marriage with his own hands on the very bed they once shared. He had hoped to spare his daughter from the ugliness. To swallow the pain himself. But I couldn't accept that. Why should I? In my past life. It was because of this so-called dignity that I ended up losing my life. I wanted her to know what kind of person her mother truly was. And why I had to bear this all alone. The atmosphere during dinner was as cold as ice. Mara ate abstinently, occasionally casting a provocative glance at me. When she finished her meal and was about to stand up to go back to her room. Mara. Come here. Elliot spoke. His tone deep and emotionless. Reluctantly. She walked over and stood in the middle of the living room. Looking aloof. What is it? What did you mean by what you said at school today? Mara. As though stepping on a sore spot. Immediately raised her voice. Wasn't I telling the truth? If it weren't for her. Would you have divorced? She spoke boldly. As if she were the embodiment of justice. Elliot looked at her. His eyes filled with a weariness and sorrow I had never seen before. I divorced your mom. He said. Each word slow and deliberate. Because she cheated. As soon as the words left his mouth. Mara froze. Her expression stiffened. And it was a full 10 seconds before she screamed. Her voice wild. You're lying. No way. You're just trying to smear her. For this woman. You'll even slander your ex-wife. She extended a trembling finger at me. And the hatred in her eyes almost seemed tangible. For a moment. My heart softened. After all. She was just a child kept in the dark. But then. The cold despair from the car accident in my previous life enveloped me in an instant. That fleeting pity vanished without a trace. I silently took out my phone and unlocked it. I didn't use the photos Elliot had taken. The ones heavily edited yet still unbearable to look at. I simply scrolled to one taken by a private investigator. I handed the phone to her. On the screen. Her mother. Valentina. Was smiling brightly. Intimately linking arms with a stranger. Walking side by side out of the lobby of a 5-star hotel. The timestamp in the bottom right corner was crystal clear. Mara's face turned white in an instant. She stared at the screen. Her lips trembling. Unable to utter a single word. I put the phone away without looking at her again. Elliot. Let's go back to the room. We turned and returned to the bedroom. Leaving her standing alone in the middle of the living room. From that day on. Mara changed. She began to take the initiative to clean the house. Even tidying up the corners I usually couldn't be bothered with. Making them spotless. She became unnervingly polite to my son. Calling him, Brother Lucas, at every turn. Even offering to wash his fruit and serve him tea. Lucas seemed to enjoy the attention. Thinking his stepsister had finally become sensible. I saw it all. And inside. I couldn't help but laugh. Having led to the previous life. I knew too well, this girl was just pretending. On the surface. She was incredibly sweet. But secretly. She was sharpening her knives. But I didn't expose her. I continued giving her pocket money. Buying her clothes. Even more thoughtfully than before. Every time I gave her money. I secretly recorded it and kept the receipts carefully. Elliot praised me for being magnanimous toward her. I only smiled and said nothing. And so. We lived in relative peace for 2 months. Until that Saturday morning. When I went out to buy groceries. As I reached the entrance of the neighborhood, I overheard a few older women chatting. That new wife of Mara's family. She seems quiet and demure, but she's really poison. Yeah. Her daughter's already 17. In her senior year. And she's still messing with the poor girl like that. I heard she's not letting the child eat enough and even throw away her clothes. TSK. TSK, HSK. What kind of stepmother is this? I froze for a moment. My heart sinking. No one knew better than me the destructive power of gossip. In my past life, I was drowned by these so-called righteous spitfires. But now, as I listened to them, I felt no anger. Only a strange sense of amusement. Mara. You finally made your move. Good. I'll wait for you to build the stage higher and invite more people. When you fall, it'll hurt more. The rumors spread like wild grass. The label of poisonous stepmother stuck to my forehead like glue. Elliot, furious, smashed a cup at home. His eyes red as he stormed to confront each of the neighbors. This is too much. It's absolute nonsense. I'll go find them. Lucas also clenched his fists, his face turning pale with anger. Mom, it's definitely Mara. I'm going to find her now. I stopped them, my voice unusually calm. Don't go. I looked at Elliot. If you argue with them, they'll just say you've been enchanted by me. This fox spirit. And that you've abandoned your own daughter. Then I turned to Lucas. You're about to take the college entrance exams. This is the most important hurdle in your life. No matter what happens, wait until after the exams. We can't let this ruin your future. Elliot slumped down, his head in his hands. Lucas looked at me, his eyes full of sympathy and frustration. But in the end, he didn't say anything else. I poured each of them a cup of warm water. At the very least, I couldn't let Elliot and Lucas become weapons in my hands that would hurt people. That day, I received a phone call. It was Lucas's homeroom teacher. Is this Lucas's mother? Could you come to the school? He got into a fight with a classmate. My heart sank, and the spoon in my hand clattered to the floor. When I arrived at the school, Lucas was standing in the office, a bruise on his cheek and the collar of his school uniform torn. Standing opposite him were two boys, also battered, with their furious parents beside them. The homeroom teacher looked troubled. Lucas's mother. I know about your family situation. But Lucas was really too impulsive today. He made a classmate bleed from the nose. The two boys' parents immediately found a vent for their frustration. What family situation? He's just copying what he sees. When the adults in the family are so cold-hearted, how can they raise a good child? To hit someone at school, what will happen when he enters society? Lucas suddenly looked up, ready to charge at them. But I grabbed his arm. I ignored the two parents, focusing solely on my son. Why did you fight? Lucas's eyes were red, his voice hoarse and stubborn. They insulted you. In that instant, all the carefully constructed calm and strategy almost shattered. I gripped my hands tightly, my nails digging into my palms, using the pain to hold on to the last bit of reason. In the end, I apologized to everyone, paid for the medical bills, and took Lucas home. But outside the school gate, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. I instinctively slowed my steps, signaling Lucas to remain quiet. I heard low voices ahead. I pressed myself against the wall, quietly peeking around the corner. It was Mara. Standing across from her was none other than her mother, Valentina. Valentina, dressed in an exquisite suit and immaculate makeup, took several bills from her designer bag and slipped them into Mara's hands. Well done. Her voice was low, tinged with a cold satisfaction. Keep going. The bigger the fuss, having fulfilled my adsature, the better. It would be perfect if we could get him expelled. Mara clutched the wad of money, her face flashing a mix of unease and greed. Mom. What if my dad? Your dad? Valentina interrupted. Valentina let out a scornful laugh. He's completely bewitched by that slut now. He couldn't care less about you. Just remember, the more grievances you suffer, the more guilt he'll feel toward you. And then maybe your mom can remarry your dad. I pulled Lucas close, quietly retreating into the shadows of the corner, until that exquisite car sped out of sight. It had been the same in my past life. Valentina spared no effort in driving a wedge between Elliot and me. But whether in this life or the last, Elliot's trust in me was as solid as iron, unshaken by any rumors. So she decided to target my son. A clever move, cutting the support from under me. She thought that if she destroyed Lucas, I would collapse, and our family would fall apart. I looked down at the angry young boy beside me. Then, remembering what I had already discovered in my investigation, a plan formed in my mind. On the way home, Lucas remained tense. His fists clenched so tightly his knuckles were white, veins bulging on the back of his hands. Mom, why are you apologizing? They started insulting you first. His voice was like an angry little beast, full of confusion and frustration. I pulled him along under the dappled light of the street lamps, the evening breeze rustling my hair and bringing a hint of coolness. Lucas. I stopped walking, lifting my head to meet his eyes so similar to mine. Using your fists is the lowest, most useless method. But they insulted me. You hit them. And what happened? I cut him off, my voice calm to the point of being eerie. The result is that I went to apologize to them and pay compensation. In the eyes of your teachers and classmates, you become a violent person. That's exactly what they want. Lucas froze, the anger in his eyes slowly fading, replaced by confusion. I reached out and gently touched the bruise on his lip. He winced in pain and hissed, "Son, remember this, anger is a weapon. But you can't swing it around like a mad dog. Turn it into a poison dagger. And when the time comes, drive it into the most crucial place." My voice was soft, yet it made Lucas' body tremble ever so slightly. He looked at me, his expression shifting from confusion to shock, and then finally to an absolute trust. He nodded firmly. "Mom, I understand. Tomorrow was the weekend." I timed it perfectly and called Mara. With just the right amount of concern in my voice, I said, "Mara, it's Auntie. Do you have plans this weekend? I'll take you and Lucas out to buy some new clothes." There was a brief silence on the other end, and I could almost picture her wary but tempted expression. Mara was still wearing the cheap streetwear she'd bought with her pocket money after a quarrel with Elliot a few months ago. For a girl in her teenage years, who cared so much about vanity, it must have felt like torture. "Okay, Auntie." In the end, she couldn't resist the allure of new clothes. I hung up the phone and gazed out the window. The fish had taken the bait. The next day, I took both children shopping at the mall. I picked out brands that Mara usually only dreamed of seeing in magazines, the latest dresses, elegantly designed jackets, and expensive shoes. "Try this one, Mara. The color suits you perfectly. These shoes would look great with the dress you just tried on." At first, she hesitated, but under my enthusiastic efforts and the irresistible pull of the beautiful clothes, her icy demeanor melted quickly. She emerged from the fitting room holding the new clothes, her cheeks flushed with excitement, showing a long-lost, radiant smile that only a young girl could have in front of the mirror. Lucas remained quiet the entire time, like a competent assistant. He tried on whatever I suggested, occasionally glancing at me with a subtle look that said he had everything under control. When it came time to pay, I didn't even blink. The shopping bags piled up quickly into a small mountain. "All right. I think we're done. You must be hungry by now." I glanced at my watch. The timing was perfect. "Let's go to that new Japanese restaurant in front for dinner. Mara, you go ahead and grab a table by the window. It has the best view. There's too much stuff, so I'll take it to the car with Lucas first." At that moment, Mara was still immersed in the joy of owning new clothes. She obediently agreed, holding her favorite bag, skipping happily toward the restaurant. I handed the pile of shopping bags to Lucas, lowering my voice. "Go wait for me in the parking lot, and don't wander off." Lucas' face tightened, but he nodded and turned to leave. I watched him go before quickly slipping into the shadows of a corner. This spot was perfect hidden, but offering a clear view of the coffee shop next door. I took out my phone and dialed a number. "You can come out now." A short came through the speaker. In less than 2 minutes, Valentina appeared. She was still dressed to the nines, and beside her was a woman who looked to be around 40. The woman had sharp eyes, carefully sizing up Valentina. Their target was clear, the coffee shop I had reserved for them. At the same time, a young man in a restaurant uniform accidentally bumped into Mara, who was just about to enter the building. When Mara looked up, she saw Valentina about to step into the coffee shop across from her. Mara froze, staring at the familiar figure, confusion and unease in her eyes. Why was her mom here? Who was the woman with her? She quietly followed, and her figure soon disappeared behind the coffee shop door. I put on the wireless earphones I had prepared earlier, and the conversation came through clearly. "I found you a benefactor. What about your daughter? The woman's voice was crisp and decisive. Valentina, don't worry. Sis. I already dumped everything on my ex-husband. As long as someone helps me get rid of these debts, I'll do whatever it takes. I couldn't help but smile. A wry grin foaming on my lips. Well, I have to know the real reason you and your ex-husband divorced before I can help you go bankrupt. Valentina let out a light laugh. One filled with a sense of I couldn't care less. It was just the mistake every woman makes. Caught in bed with another man. You don't know. I originally planned to use my daughter to stir up trouble. Ruin that woman's reputation. And then use my ex-husband's guilt to get him to remarry me and pay off my debts. But now I'm really strapped for cash. I glanced up at the glass window of the coffee shop on the second floor. Though I couldn't make out the details inside, I could imagine the expression on Mara's face at this very moment. Her most beloved mother, who had suffered so much for her, turned out to view her as nothing more than a tool to be used and discarded whenever necessary. The so-called maternal love was nothing but a carefully orchestrated scam. The screeching sound of a chair scraping the floor pierced my ears. And came the sharp clink of a glass being placed on the table. A woman's voice, tinged with displeasure, broke the silence. What's going on? Valentina, apparently caught off guard by the sudden situation, stammered in a flustered tone. You? How did you get here? Who told you to come? Mom. It was Mara's voice. What did you mean by what you just said? Valentina was clearly caught off guard, unable to answer, and only emitted some meaningless syllables. You. What do you know? You're just a child. Her voice suddenly rose. Aggressive yet hollow. Who told you to eavesdrop on adults? Haven't you been taught any manners? I'm asking you. What did you mean by what you said earlier? Did you really cheat on Dad and divorce him? Mara's voice was growing higher, filled with evident anger and disbelief. There was a cold laugh from Valentina on the other end. Fine. You'll find out sooner or later. Yes, having fulfilled my say. I cheated. And your dad caught me red-handed. So what? Mara's breath quickened. You lied to me. You said Dad had another woman. And you said you were the victim. When did I ever say I was the victim? Valentina shot back, her tone filled with self-righteousness. But you said Dad wronged you. That you suffered so much for me. Her voice trembled uncontrollably, every word seeming to crack in her throat. Suffered? Valentina laughed as if hearing the biggest joke in the world. Her voice sharply rose. Mara. Are you out of your mind? My biggest suffering was giving birth to you. A burden. If it weren't for you, I would have run far away and been living a carefree life. But here I am, begging for a way out. What? Look at you now, crying and whimpering. You're just giving me a headache. Have I ever gotten anything good from raising you? No, without you, I would have been free and living my life in luxury. And you? You are the biggest obstacle in my life. Mom, I'm not worthy of that title. Valentina's voice turned icy. I've had enough of you. Mara. From now on, don't call me Mom. I don't have a daughter like you. We're done. Forever. There was a soft slap through the headphones. I guessed it was the sound of a few bills being thrown onto the table. Take this money and leave. Don't ever show up in front of me again. The footsteps were chaotic. Stumbling. Then all went silent. From that day on, Mara truly became a different person. School, home, tutoring she kept to herself, never speaking to us again. I thought to myself, as long as she didn't cause trouble, I wouldn't do anything to her. When the exam results came out, my son Lucas cheered and leapt into my arms, having secured a place in a top university. Mara, on the other hand, lost control of her emotions during the exam and tore her paper to pieces, failing to get into any school. I once thought that the dramatic fallout between mother and daughter had only caused Mara some emotional problems that would heal with time. But I didn't expect her to turn into a vengeful person. Just like her mother, seeking revenge on everyone. Just like in my previous life. She began to publicly attack me online. My reputation was smeared across the internet, with headline after headline more shocking than the last. Cruel stepmother drives stepdaughter to madness. Destroys exam paper in the post. I was painted as a scheming woman bent on ruining her life. Fortunately, I had prepared. I had a complete recording of Valentina's conversation sent out. Then came the coffee shop surveillance footage high definition, showing Valentina using money to humiliate her biological daughter and severing ties with her. The public outcry was explosive. The tide turned faster than a page could be flipped. And all the criticism flowed toward Mara. My God. She's a carbon copy of her mother. Ungrateful wretch. Her father and stepmother raised her. And now she's attacking them only? Elliot couldn't take it anymore. Mara went wild at home, smashing anything she could find, even biting him when he tried to stop her. I'm sending her back to the countryside, Elliot said through red-rimmed eyes. I nodded. That's probably for the best. Some people are destined to pay the price for their choices. As for Valentina, she wasn't faring any better. She still had no idea that the woman she knew was someone I had hired to reel her in. She was soon exposed for cheating and being kept by men. I poured myself a glass of red wine, settled on the couch, and opened a group chat of 500 people on my phone. A 50-page PDF with pictures detailing Valentina's closeness with various men over an extended period. Each time-stamped. The latest man in the timeline? The very Mr. Wang she thought would elevate her to greatness. The whistleblower was adamant, claiming to be Mr. Wang's wife, driven to despair by the mistress. The post also included explicit and unspeakable chat records between Valentina and Mr. Wang. The comment section was already overwhelmed. Wow. Just finished calling her daughter an ungrateful wretch. And now it turns out the mom is even worse? This whole family is a mess. Case closed. So she humiliated her daughter just because the girl was getting in the way of her gold digging? Ridiculous. I swirled the liquid in my glass. The deep red wine like flowing blood. The so-called Mr. Wang's wife was, of course, another person I had hired. Valentina. This greedy fool would bite the hook without hesitation as soon as a bit of sweetness was dangled in front of her. Now, both the fish and the fishing net were mine to collect. My phone vibrated with a bank transfer notification. The final payment had been made. I closed my phone with satisfaction and downed the last of my wine. The past was like smoke. From now on, the world was my oyster.